Imagine a country that, just a few decades ago, was poorer than many developing nations. A country where millions of people struggled with poverty. Modern highways barely existed. Private businesses were almost impossible to find. And owning a car was a luxury few could even dream of. Now imagine that same country becoming the world's factory, producing the smartphones in your pocket, the clothes in your wardrobe, the electronics on your desk, and exporting trillions of dollars worth of goods every single year. Today, China is the world's second largest economy, home to some of the busiest ports, the largest high-speed rail network, and cities that seem to have appeared almost overnight. But how did this happen? How did one of the poorest countries on Earth transform itself into an economic superpower in less than half a century? Was it cheap labor, government planning, foreign investment, or something much bigger? The answer isn't simple, because China's rise wasn't built on a single decision. It was built on decades of bold reforms, massive ambition, and one economic transformation that changed the world forever. This is the story of how China became an economic superpower. But to understand China's incredible rise, we first need to go back to a very different China, a China that looked nothing like the one we know today. Part 2. China before the economic miracle. Before China became an economic giant, it was one of the poorest countries in the world. In the middle of the 20th century, most Chinese families lived in rural villages. The economy was almost entirely controlled by the government. Private businesses barely existed. Factories, farms, banks, nearly everything belonged to the state. After the founding of the People's Republic of China in 1949, Chairman Mao Zedong introduced a centrally planned economy. The government decided what would be produced, how much would be produced, and even where resources would be allocated. At first, many believed this system would rapidly modernize the country, but reality turned out to be far more complicated. During the late 1950s, China launched an ambitious campaign known as the Great Leap Forward. The goal was simple: transform an agricultural nation into an industrial superpower almost overnight. Millions of farmers were moved into collective communes. Agricultural production was reorganized, and people were encouraged to produce steel in small backyard furnaces. But the plan failed dramatically. Poor planning, unrealistic production targets, and widespread economic disruption contributed to one of the worst famines in human history. Millions of people lost their lives, and China's economy suffered a devastating setback. In the years that followed, the country remained largely isolated from the global economy. Foreign investment was almost non-existent. International trade was extremely limited. Modern technology was difficult to access. And compared to countries like Japan, Germany, or the United States, China was falling further behind. By the late 1970s, it had become clear that something had to change. The old economic model was no longer delivering the growth the country desperately needed. China stood at a crossroads. One path meant continuing with the old system. The other meant taking a risk and opening the door to an entirely new economic future. That decision would change not only China, but the entire world. In 1978, a quiet leader stepped forward. He didn't promise a revolution. He promised results. His name was Deng Xiaoping. Part 3. The Man Who Changed China. In 1978, China made one of the most important decisions in its modern history. After years of slow growth and economic isolation, a new leader emerged. His name was Deng Xiaoping. Unlike many leaders before him, Deng wasn't interested in ideology alone. He was interested in results. One of his most famous sayings perfectly captured his philosophy. It doesn't matter whether a cat is black or white, as long as it catches mice. In other words, if an idea improved people's lives, it was worth trying. This way of thinking marked the beginning of a new era. Instead of keeping China completely closed, Deng decided to slowly open the country's economy. Farmers were given greater freedom to sell their crops. Small private businesses were allowed to operate again. Foreign companies were invited to invest in China. It was a radical shift, but perhaps the boldest decision came in the early 1980s. China created several special economic zones, often called SEZs. These zones offered lower taxes, simpler regulations, and incentives for international companies. One small fishing village became the symbol of this experiment, Shenzhen. At the time, almost nobody outside China had heard of it. It was home to only a few 100,000 people. Today, Shenzhen is one of the world's leading technology hubs, home to companies like Huawei, DJI, and Tencent, with a population of more than 17 million people. What happened there amazed the world. Foreign companies brought investment, technology, manufacturing expertise, and millions of new jobs. For the first time, China wasn't just producing for itself. It was producing for the entire world. These reforms didn't transform the country overnight, but they created something far more important. Momentum. Every new factory, every new business, and every new investment pushed China one step closer to becoming an economic powerhouse. But the biggest transformation was still ahead, because soon, the world would begin to manufacture almost everything in China. Within just a few decades, the words "Made in China" would appear on billions of products, and China would earn a new nickname, the factory of the world. Part 4. The factory of the world by the 1990s. China's economy was accelerating faster than almost anyone had imagined. Foreign companies weren't just investing anymore, they were moving their factories to China. There was one simple reason: China could produce goods faster, cheaper, and on a scale the world had never seen before. Millions of workers were entering the manufacturing industry. New industrial cities appeared almost overnight. Massive factories stretched for miles, operating day and night to meet global demand. Soon, some of the world's biggest brands began manufacturing their products in China. Apple, Nike, Adidas, Samsung, Dell, HP, Sony, and thousands of other companies. If you looked around your home, there was a good chance many of the products you owned had one small label, made in China. China wasn't just making toys anymore, it was producing smartphones, computers, televisions, home appliances, clothing, furniture, and countless everyday products used by billions of people. But manufacturing wasn't the only reason for China's success. The country invested heavily in something many nations struggled to build: infrastructure. Modern highways connected industrial zones to major cities. Deep water ports handled thousands of cargo ships every year. Airports expanded at an incredible pace. Railways stretched across the country. Everything was designed with one goal in mind: move goods faster, move people faster, and keep the economy growing. China's ports soon became some of the busiest on Earth. Every single day, thousands of containers arrived, and thousands more left for Europe, North America, Africa, and the rest of Asia. By joining the World Trade Organization in 2001, China became even more deeply connected to global markets. International trade expanded rapidly, exports surged, and the country's economy entered a period of extraordinary growth. Within just a few decades, China had become known as the factory of the world. But China wasn't satisfied with simply assembling products for other companies. It wanted something bigger. It wanted to become a global leader in technology, innovation, and the industries of the future. The world once came to China because it was cheap. Today, it's watching China because it's becoming innovative, and that may be the country's biggest transformation yet. Part 5. From Factory to Technology Superpower. For many years, the world saw China as a place that simply assembled products designed somewhere else. But that image has been changing rapidly. China no longer wants to be known only as the world's factory. It wants to become one of the world's greatest innovators. Over the last 2 decades, the country has invested hundreds of billions of dollars into research, education, artificial intelligence, robotics, and advanced manufacturing. The results are impossible to ignore. Today, some of the world's most influential technology companies come from China. Huawei became a global leader in telecommunications equipment and smartphones. DJI transformed the drone industry, producing the majority of the world's consumer drones. Alibaba revolutionized online commerce, while Tencent built one of the largest digital ecosystems on the planet. Then came companies like BYD, once known mainly as a battery manufacturer. BYD has grown into one of the world's biggest electric vehicle companies, competing directly with global brands in one of the fastest-growing industries. China is also leading in areas that will define the future: artificial intelligence, renewable energy, battery technology, high-speed rail, and advanced robotics. In many of these sectors, competition is no longer about low labor costs. It's about innovation. Every year, Chinese universities graduate millions of engineers, scientists, and technology specialists. New startups receive billions of dollars in investment. Entire cities have been transformed into innovation hubs, where research laboratories, technology parks, and manufacturing facilities operate side by side. The question is no longer, can China manufacture the world's products? The question has become, can China lead the technologies of tomorrow? But despite this incredible progress, China's rise has not been without challenges. In recent years, slowing economic growth, rising debt, demographic changes, and growing geopolitical tensions have raised new questions about the country's future. Can China's economic miracle continue, or is it entering a completely new chapter? Every great economic success story eventually faces its biggest test, and for China, that test may have already begun. Part 6. The challenges ahead. Every economic miracle eventually faces a new reality, and China is no exception. After decades of extraordinary growth, the country is now confronting some of the biggest challenges in its modern history. One of the most significant is demographics. For years, China's population grew rapidly, providing millions of young workers to power its factories and industries. But today, that trend has begun to reverse. Birth rates have fallen, the population is aging, and the workforce is no longer growing at the same pace. At the same time, China's property market, once considered one of the main engines of economic growth, has experienced serious difficulties. Several major real estate developers have struggled under enormous levels of debt. Housing demand has slowed, and confidence in the property sector has weakened. Beyond its borders, China also faces increasing competition and geopolitical tensions. Trade disputes, technology restrictions, and efforts by some countries to diversify global supply chains have created new challenges for Chinese manufacturers. Companies around the world are now exploring production in countries like Vietnam, India, and Mexico. Yet, despite these obstacles, China remains one of the world's most important economic powers. It is still a global leader in manufacturing, a major exporter, and one of the largest consumer markets on earth. The question is no longer whether China changed the global economy. It already did. The real question is, what comes next? Will China continue its remarkable rise, or will the next chapter be defined by slower growth, innovation, and adaptation? Only time will tell. Part 7. Conclusion. Just a few generations ago, China was one of the poorest countries in the world. Today, it builds some of the world's fastest trains, operates some of its busiest ports, produces technology used by billions of people, and plays a central role in the global economy. Its transformation has lifted hundreds of millions of people out of poverty, reshaped international trade, and changed the way the world manufactures, invests, and competes. Whether China eventually becomes the world's largest economy or faces new economic challenges, one fact remains undeniable. The rise of China is one of the greatest economic transformations in modern history. Understanding that story isn't just about understanding China. It's about understanding the future of the global economy, because in today's interconnected world, what happens in Beijing, Shanghai, or Shenzhen can influence businesses, markets, and households thousands of miles away. China's story is still being written, and the next chapter may be even more important than the last. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this documentary, subscribe to Behind the Money for more stories about business, economics, investing, and the forces shaping our world. See you in the next episode.